Did you see the president's press conference yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Your thoughts?
That's Donald Trump. I didn't expect anything less. Very entertaining.
I just wondered if you had some like it seems like the White House has captured everyone's attention and
That's an understatement. Look, he is who he is. Would I hire him to run a company for me? No. But he's our president. I think, as much as I've picked on him, let me go through the list of the positives first, and then we can torch him. One, he's changing the SEC. I was a critic of Obama's SEC. I said a lot publicly that I was a critic of Obama's SEC. I think it was a mess. POR is now running it. Hopefully they'll keep him there. He's got a good sense, and hopefully they'll introduce bright line regulations so people know what you can and can't do when it comes to trading and other things. I think what he's doing with the FCC, I know it's not popular in Silicon Valley, but I've been anti-net neutrality since 2005. I think the internet works, and introducing regulation isn't going to make it any more open or free, and could stifle innovation on the internet. I like what he's attempting to do with taxes, whether or not, now maybe not to the extreme, and I don't think he'll get 20% even for corporate or personal taxes, but I think reducing the amount of paperwork and administrivia involved reduces everybody's costs in doing so. So I think that's a positive. I think what he's doing with lobbyists, when you said, you can't become a lobbyist if you've worked for the government, I think that's great. I think it's great for everybody. I think reducing regulations. If you said, okay, Mark, if you were a politician, what's one of the first things you would do? I'd reduce the amount of regulation. There's just, we don't need 75,000 pages or whatever it is. So I think, whether or not all these things get passed or how they're implemented and executed, that's always a challenge. But I don't want everybody to think, well, I'm just a full-time critic and I don't recognize some of the positive things that they've done, particularly when it comes from a business perspective. I think there's some conservative Republican concepts that I, as an independent, can't agree with. Now, the devil's in the details, and then you've got to be able to get them passed, and we'll see whether or not he does that.
But things you're critical of, you said?
No, stuff I'd torch him over, right? What he's doing socially, immigration, the EPA, who knows what's real and what's not, rounding up immigrants that are legally here. I think his implementation and execution of stuff is severely lacking, and I don't think they're thought through. But I think the bigger overriding, and there's 10 other things I can go through on that list, but I think the bigger overriding problem is in terms of leadership and management and personal issues for him. I don't think he's a leader. I think what people tend to forget now is that now that he's won the election, he's the president, he is also the commander-in-chief. And he's also in charge of the federal government. That's 4 million plus employees. Everything he says, everything he does, when he does the press conference yesterday, he's not only talking to the media, he's not only talking to the people who voted for him, he's talking to 4 million plus employees. He's speaking as the commander-in-chief to the military. And so when you do that, you have to come across as a leader. You have to show leadership qualities. And in order to show leadership qualities, you have to be able to admit a mistake. Right? Because I think one of the reasons that we're seeing leaks and so many problems from the intelligence community and from a staff for non-intelligence issues, if the guy in charge or the woman in charge does not admit or acknowledge mistakes, well, everybody that works for you, they see the mistake, they see the problem, and if the top person isn't accepting the responsibility, where's that responsibility going to fall? On one of them. And so knowing that they're going to get the blame, they're leaking to CYA their own asses, right? And so I think that's a symptom of his lack of leadership problems.